Hey everybody, thank you for joining our AMA. We got myself, Brandon, Phil, and John here. Just really hope everyone's doing well through this crazy time. I know there's a lot of anxiety and uncertainty happening in people's dynamics with relationships, economically, everything, and we're feeling it personally as well. And I've had some really interesting moments going through this as I feel very calm through this. I do have spikes in anxiety that pop up. But yeah, this has been something we've been aiming for and have seen these sort of problems for a while. Never thought that a pandemic would be the case to start hitting the levers for the dominoes to start unfolding. But so when you predetermine situations like this in your mind, you accept them a little more gracefully. And I've had this weird thought where it's like we've almost been building the arc of trying to take and create a hedge for humanity to push through this and come out the other end on a positive note. So it's been a pretty wild experience for me personally. I don't know if you guys have any personal kind of comments to make on this current situation the global economy is facing in this pandemic. Do you guys have anything to add?
Yeah, I think the thing I would add is I'm in Indonesia and Bali right now, and I spent a little time in Malaysia before that during the unfolding of a lot of really what we're seeing, and it's truly a very global thing. I mean, you're seeing it's amazing how much that's true, where the streets are empty here, the streets are empty in the US, everywhere in the world it seems like you go, there's a similar eeriness and kind of feeling of this is happening to all of us, and that's something that's as painful of an experience as this is for everyone. It's at least a reminder that we're all connected and all on the same planet.
Mm-hmm.
I'll start with one thing is that this is evidence of just how fast things can change in the world. You know, if I told you 3 months ago that the world could be in this phase on April 2nd, like that would have sounded crazy. So
Yeah.
When we talk about the giant kinds of positive changes that we want to make in the world, if you really do get viral growth, the change can happen unbelievably fast. So just because it hasn't taken off yet doesn't mean that it won't when we get the thing right.
Absolutely.
That's a great point, Phil. Thank you for bringing that up. Because there's an article like that we're trying to button up, but that's a great point of the COVID is like a network effect in play of like the term of it's just the flu, but there's like a factor of like 1.3 of transmitting it versus the 3x like metric that COVID is. And it's like when you see that growth happen and that exponential growth, it can change like a blink of an eye. And it's a real world, it's a bad case of it, of like how intertwined we all are. But economies can change just as fast as the mind changes. So we look forward to hopefully shedding the light into these dark times and really trying to push at least the conversations forward, but really hope that we are part of the solutions and what can transcend into the future. One question, we had some really great questions. Man, I'm really impressed with our community and who follows it. I know we've kind of been in dormant mode, but we have some really high intellect people following this community. So I really appreciate the comments and questions. But
just clarify one thing, Brandon. You know, you said dormant mode, and that's true on the public-facing side.
Yes.
And there hasn't been a lot of clarity and explanation to the public, but behind the scenes, we've made tremendous progress. It may not look like much yet, but tons has been done and continues to be done. So
yes.
I'll throw that out there.
Yeah, that's a great point. It's like you get into this mode of ready for the public, and then you learn, and then you kind of burrow back to just do the work. And that's been kind of the phase. So yeah, thank you for clarifying that, Phil. So yeah, this question came up is, why are you doing this project in the first place? I think this is a tremendous question. I come from the background of construction and engineering, and one of the tool sets we used when a safety accident happened was the 5 whys. As you ask 5 whys of a problem, and you get to the root problem of of what needs to be fixed. So for me, I've gone down this path where you constantly ask, like, why is these certain negative things happening to societies? And it started getting me down that rabbit hole that a lot of people go down. And for me, it's just to create like at least be a platform for discussion, like I think was the first early on phase of it. Then it turned into like, oh man, this is a really important idea. It needs to exist. I think someone will do it, and some group of people will do it. And then it turned into analyzing that landscape. And then it's been tough to grasp because I've always wanted to be in the background of all this. Like, if you told me 5 years ago you'd be doing an AMA, I'd be like, no thanks. I just want to be in the background rooting whoever's doing it on. Like, this is totally out of my realm of who I am personally, but I know I need to step into different situations. So it evolved into like, this needs to happen. And it's like, oh crap. Like, were we that right? That like this needs to occur? And going through this, I've had a lot of like awakening of like, okay, this is game time. We really need to bring some of these things to light. So it's not any personal gains, none of that. Like, if the right thing financially for me should have been to stay in construction and oil and gas. I got into crypto early enough where I should have just done the hodl gang crap, and I would have been probably way better off financially. But you know what? Something stirred in my heart that something wasn't right, and I needed to work towards it. And I'm so blessed to be working with such a passionate group of people. So that is why I'm doing it. I got 2 little ones, and I'm fighting tooth and nail for them that a brighter future lies ahead. So I think everyone should answer that one. That one's a great question. Mm-hmm. So Phil, you want to tap into that too?
Yeah, I mean, my basic answer is back in the 2017 crypto boom. I was thinking about all this stuff all the time. I was just thinking about crypto all the time. I was all excited. I was making all this money. And my wife said, what good does this do for the world? Okay, so young white men will get all the money instead of the old white men. You need to stop talking about this unless you can tell me how this is actually going to help everybody. And I didn't have an immediate answer. And I spent a bunch of time thinking about it. And I'd always been worried about automation and the coming changes, and thought UBI was cool, and had an epiphany that, oh my God, you could have crypto UBI. Imagine a new money system where at its genesis, money was created for everyone. And I thought it was a brand new idea. I got all excited, and next day I Googled it and thought, oh, people have been working on this for years. Good, I don't have to. But as I started reading my first white papers, and I found, you Manna guys, you Grant Coin guys at the time, and the other projects that were doing this, and none of it seemed quite right. There's lots of really interesting ideas. I was like, there's not the magic thing that I can just start screaming from the rooftops, everyone's going to do this. Mm-hmm. And it turned out that all of it's way harder than I thought. Also along the way, learned that this digital identity thing was a major stumbling block that we need to solve before you can do the funner stuff of distributing money. So yeah, I've just slowly been learning. I thought I knew something, like 2 years ago, and then I spent a long time not knowing anything, and now I know a little bit. And hey, so I'm doing what I can.
Awesome. How about you, John?
Yeah. Well, for me, it's been very much a journey, and a lot of what has happened and where we are now, I certainly didn't expect when this started. For me, it began certainly before crypto, and really with just an understanding of some of the problems with the global financial and economic systems, and I had always had this firm belief in this idea of basically voting with your dollar concepts of let's use, there's so many inefficiencies in changing the world through, though not to discredit them, through things like government methodologies and stuff. It's just very slow. And sometimes the fastest and most efficient way to make change is through changing your spending, saving, investing habits. And that kind of in coordination with this idea, this developing idea of the problems with some of these fiat systems like the US dollar, and that the way we're spending all our money, I mean, you can quote unquote vote with your dollar, but what if your dollar in and of itself has inherent problems and isn't the best solution to be that median? So with that was, I think, for me and for a lot of people early on that were entering kind of the Bitcoin and cryptocurrency space, was this idea of there's some really revolutionary ways that we can maybe make more transparent and meaningful base layer for transacting value and creating money, and that evolved into what initially became Grant Coin, from Eric, the co-founder, who basically coined the term, and the idea behind it was essentially, our initial phrase was currency with a conscience, and it was just the idea of, we want this underlying currency to be based on principles, to be based on values, to have value based on values, and that was the concept. But this was a whole new landscape, and a lot of it was totally uncharted. We started when Ethereum didn't exist, when coin market cap was one page, when a lot of things were very early on, and a lot of these concepts they were very early in even exploring what the possibilities were, and that was the same for us. But as time went on, we just started to realize and learn, like, how are we actually going to achieve this? And what became, I think, a growing reality and lesson was the importance towards simplification, because you can't create a really truly scalable solution that has all these layers of bureaucratic and complicated elements to make it happen. And that evolved into this really simple idea of, why don't we distribute the new value created to everybody? And so for me, basic income wasn't something I was deeply aware of or familiar with when we started the Grant Coin project, but it became just such an obvious and clear solution to make an equitable model, to make this underlying goal of a currency with a conscience. And it was a very synergistic kind of just moving into this. And then from there, it's been just meeting and coming across all of these other people who've come along the same revelation at the same time. I mean, it's really amazing when you see that, when you're on kind of the brink of a new idea, because it's kind of this old kind of ongoing theme of, when a new invention happens, they always say a bunch of people come up with it at the same time. And that's certainly true. I think we were absolutely not the only ones thinking about this, and we quickly learned that. And I think at first there was this hesitation with everyone of like, oh, we're all in our own little corners trying to do the same thing. And then this growing realization of like, okay, we need to be working together on this, not all just competing in our own little corners, because we have to make this actually happen. We have to create a reality. And so, it's just been a lot of unexpected surprises and turns into something that's just growingly more and more, not just an abstract idea, but something I really see as a very clear-cut and necessary and important solution. That gets me more excited about day by day. So
yeah. Yeah, and to summarize here, like I don't know if some of the people read our last email, but these are theoretical ideas with uncharted territory, and I think one of our biggest mistakes that I think we've made is having higher expectations of what we could achieve with not the data and the technology maturity of what it can fulfill. And I think we've let a few people down, and it's disheartening for sure. But I don't think we would have gotten to this point if we didn't have that optimism, because yeah, we're trying to change the world for the better, and you have to have a level of optimism, because we're just getting left and right critics of different things, and we'll go through those questions. So awesome. Yeah, so let's start here. I guess we'll start from the top down here. Okay, cool. If gold is more stable than the dollar, then why would you peg the Manna dollar fiat? Yeah, so I think Phil's a great one to answer that, and John, I'll let them take that one.
I don't know, being great, but the world runs on fiat, not gold. Is the simplest answer. You know, we wish that we could just make a new money and have that be instantly stable, but that doesn't work that way. You know, Bitcoin has lots of things going for it, but it certainly isn't stable at this point, and it is the granddaddy of all of these new forms of money. The U.S. dollar is the reserve currency of the world. Everyone sort of understands it. Everyone has access to it. So in order to make fewer different things that people have to adapt to all at once, pegging it to the US dollar, we think is the simplest and most effective thing. In the long run, we hope that there's more interesting things, but for right now, it's the least disruptive.
Yeah. Yep, 100%. The practical, just what the day-to-day, to get the more meaningful. We got too utopias in the future of, so agreed.
Just very briefly, Brandon, to add to that, it's understanding that we have these longer term, bigger visions that are more on that utopias, kind of changing the way the world operates. But then there's shorter term, you have to work with how the world is today. And it's something we've increasingly realized. If we want to make impact today and in the near term, that's the only way to do it.
Yeah.
I'll throw one more thing. If we get 10 million people in the world to believe that a Manna dollar is worth $1, to then get those same people to believe that some free-floating Manna currency also has value of something greater than zero, once they already believe the pegged version, it's a much smaller change to make.
Yeah. And from my perspective, we're using Manna, like that's the term of like the currency or whatever, but if you look at the definition, it's an unexpected gratuitous benefit. That's what we want to provide in people's lives. It's not some specific, we just want that goal to be achieved. You know what, and we just want to use whatever the best tools or resources are there. And nothing is certain of what's going to happen. We are trying to portray what we hope and what we're working towards, but like a blink of an eye, we never know what's going to happen in this world. Yeah, nothing is certain, and we're going to work towards, and we need others to get on board and not just totally depend on a group of volunteers to make this stuff happen, because it's got to be a collective effort to push all this forward. Okay. Will my referrals receive their previous Manna distributions because they're unable to verify themselves until brightID becomes available? Yeah, so the referrals were a good strategy. It was too complex with the distribution of it. We're reassessing how referrals should even function into the next phase. And if there is a small subset of people that onboarded, thank you for referring people. We want people that did refer to be rewarded. So we will assess that when the time comes. So thank you for referring to your network. Really appreciate that. Why have I not received free Manna for some time now? Yeah, if you're following, just we're in a transition phase. We're extending our resources a bit too much, and we had to consolidate our efforts. And the focus is really ramping up brightID and getting that unique identity solution solved, and the meaningful distribution of value solved first. So yeah, that's previous correspondents have kind of shared what the status has been.
And Brent, I'll also throw in the systems that were being used to operate the blockchain and do the distributions were very capital inefficient. So
Yeah.
the organization, which
Right.
has very little money, was spending a tremendous amount of money and unsustainable just to sort of run the tech stack to continue what was being done. We're in the process of evaluating better tech stacks that are 1,000 times more capital efficient, such that we can do all that needs to be done in the past and much more in the future in an affordable manner. So that's why it's been paused, because it was too expensive to keep doing it the way we were doing it.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, that's a great point. Because yeah, like our theories would not work if we take in money and just expend it to operate. It needs to be money coming in and leverage it in magnitudes. We hope 10x higher at some point, where every dollar comes in and we 10x it out. So yeah, that's a good point. Thank you for clarifying there. And jump into, I'll pass some of these on to y'all here. This is an interesting statement or question here. Can you please add more interactive ways in the marketplace where aspiring entrepreneurs are helped by experienced entrepreneurs in exchange for Manna or MannaDollars for helping each other out in a non-selfish and or self-sustainable way, which is good for the platform and good for all entrepreneurs, as it is fair inclusion? Yeah, you guys, one of you guys want to take that one on?
I'd say from a general perspective, it'd be wonderful to have a feature like that down the line. Some of that's going to be, we can create maybe the tool set for people to do that and encourage it. In the end, it's hard to say how effective it'll be unless the community really drives that. But I have a feeling once we have an opportunity to really develop a quality marketplace, that we're going to see some, especially since it's founded on principles of more like a community-driven, connected philosophy, that we're going to see some really cool things emerge from it in terms of what the community does and how they interact and how they help each other. And at least from what we can do, I would love to build a community that's helping each other. That's kind of like, it sounds like almost an apprenticeship style, like a digital apprenticeship program of helping young entrepreneurs and business people to learn from the older and wiser ones. So I love it in theory. It's absolutely something that would be great to integrate, but it certainly would be a little bit down the line.
Yeah, I think it's a beautiful idea, and it can also be something that develops organically. You know, in the Swift demand marketplace, there got to be a Telegram group of Swift demand sellers that they just created it themselves, and they talked about, you know, tips and tricks and figuring out better ways to run their businesses. It's funny because we want there to be competition to make it as efficient as possible. You know, capitalism does a really good job of meeting the needs of paying customers.
Right.
But I also think, especially with the community being sort of focused, especially at the beginning, on values, that sellers are more likely to want to help each other than on eBay or Amazon Marketplace.
Yeah. Yeah, I think brightID has actually done a really good job of like curating different tasks for community members to kind of take on. So uh, yeah, so can I register again in Manna since my old registration is not verified yet? Yeah, like with the brightID system, everyone will have to go through that. We're not sure how the migration of verified users would occur, but once we roll that out, I highly suggest people to just download brightID and get reconnected on there. Y'all have anything?
And you'll be able to link that
Yeah.
brightID to your existing Manna account if you already
Mhm.
had one. And if you
Mhm.
didn't already, if you're a new user, then you'll just get a new Manna account linked to your brightID.
Yep. I've signed up over a year ago and no Manna yet, sent my ID and everything. Yeah, again, we've had to put a standstill on the process of verifying, and we'll go through who actually did that legitimately, and if it's not too time extensive or resource burdensome, the people that did do it. But again, highly suggest when we roll out the brightID flow to go through that process.
Mhm.
Oh, what do we got here? Okay. I've been following the project for a while and I fully support the ideals and objectives. My compound question is about governance. In the long term, should your vision be realized, the parameters by which your ecosystem will operate, percent circulation, redistributed, may become contentious variables. As a collection of organizations, HedgeforHumanity, brightID, Mannabase, with some shared officers, what scope will the users of Manna and MannaDollar have to influence the decision making in these organizations, elect officers, and potentially prevent cronyism? Will the users of
Cronyism.
yeah? Will the users of Manna have an opportunity to be represented any executives or oversight bodies? Do you have any kind of timeline for addressing governance? Thanks for your time. I would like your guys' thoughts on that one before I respond.
Well, I think Phil's probably the best to answer this. He's really helped head brightID's governance model, which is a DAO structure that's really innovative. So, Phil, do you want to start off and take this?
Yeah, I'll try. So I'll start with the one I can't answer first, which is timeline. We don't specifically know that needs to get figured out. But from a vision standpoint, from a mission, absolutely. And we do not want this to be a fiefdom of a few people at the top dictating everything. HedgeforHumanity right now, has a small board. We certainly look to expand that, get it way more diverse than it is now. We absolutely recognize that as a gaping problem that needs to be addressed. HedgeforHumanity at this moment is not doing very much. As it does more, we'll get more and more folks involved, and have a variety of ways that people can be involved. One of the things that brightID enables is much more interesting forms of democracy. So there's liquid democracy where lots of people can channel their voting power to the people that they think are best placed to make those decisions. Yet when they're not happy, can instantly change that around. It's not like you vote for president and you're stuck for 4 years. There's quadratic voting, which is a really cool system that lets people have minority opinions matter more if they're willing to use extra resources to vote on a particular issue. And on the brightID side, where we have had the most focus on governance, we are already run by a DAO. The founders of brightID have given up all control and economics to the DAO, and only have their voting membership. As of today, there's 13 members. of the DAO. We plan to expand that. Don't know how many more. Sort of figure we're hoping to kind of move towards 100 and see how that feels in terms of being sort of efficient in getting things done, but still being well decentralized. Anyone that has interest and time and passion for this would be welcome to come talk to us, and we could see if there's a role for you there. That is certainly a place that anyone in the community could theoretically join. At this point, all decisions, including the membership of the DAO, are made up by the DAO. So it takes, right now there's 13 members. It takes 7 votes to become the next member.
Yeah.
John is in the queue. He hasn't gotten the votes yet because no one controls it. So I have voted for John's admission, but he's not gotten the requisite votes yet. In terms of oversight, yes, we want there to be oversight. Also, in terms of being open with the community, like on the brightID side, everything is wide open. Everything is open source, on chain. It is available for anyone's review. There's not backroom dealings. So I hope and assume that Hedge4Humanity will be very similar in its openness.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's like, from my I'm not as in tune. I've found it very interesting. For the people that don't know what a DAO is, it's a DAO, a decentralized autonomous organization is the acronym. I look at it more as a distributed kind of organization. And what's ironic through this is, like, we've been promoting and we've gotten criticized of, like, you don't have an office, you guys are all working remotely. And now all of a sudden, again, this pandemic hits, and now we look like this is a breeze for us to just adapt to how we function. Nothing's changed. So again, when you're ahead of the curve on things, it seems abnormal in the day-to-day, but again, things can change very quickly. The DAO structure and community voting, I still think is a very unique idea, and I think has its place, but I think there's some inefficiencies as far as like currency and monetary policy. I see that as not the average user should even think about it. Money should just be working for people. I think there's going to have to be different rule sets for how people get engaged and stuff like that. But the theory is very much in line with what we want to go towards. And open sourcing more of the Mannabase development is going to be an important step. And then, of course, Hedge4Humanity has to be, it's like the bridge, being a 501c3 tax-exempt US-based organization. So there's specific rules that it has to abide by. So yeah, it's just going to be a journey, but what you stated there in that question, that is some goals we want to aim towards for sure.
Yeah, and a great question, a very well thought out question.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, I'm telling you, dude, we have smart people. Like, our community is awesome. Like, there's a few that chime up that are a little distracting, but we have an amazing community, and it's going to expand once we open the brightID doorway. I think it's going to be a tremendous influx of excitement and optimism. I was just wondering how long it takes for my profile setup. I have been waiting months and I'm still not able to use it. Is there anything I should be doing? No, we're just, again, we were diluting our efforts and energy too much, and we had to really refocus on the steps in the roadmap to really come to make this a viable solution. This one's interesting. This, I think, is a really, I don't think he'll mind me saying, Michael 10, he's been one of the most patient, awesome community members that we've had. If you don't follow him, he's an interesting fellow. I hope Bitcoin Cash Simple Ledger Protocol is researched as a method of securing the Manna Blockchain, potentially enabling ultra-low sub-penny fees. Will Bitcoin Cash SLP Tokens be researched as a way of securing the Manna Blockchain? and enabling transaction fees. They're about fractions of a penny. Yeah, one of y'all, I would like to respond to one of you guys' responses to
that. From a broader perspective, I think at this point, we're open to whatever solution best allows us to make Manna achieve the goals it needs to. So from that angle, I don't see any reason why we wouldn't look into it, but there have been specifically, I know even with Bitcoin Cash brought up some concerns, basically about the main issues are, one is the feasibility of creating wallets for all our users without there being a cost, because a lot of times, you know, each one of these wallets has to have value in it just to start, and then you have to have a whole developer network around it. So it's right now, I know we have a few options that are maybe the top, and one we're considering is like a side chain Ethereum, but it hasn't been decided yet. So I would say it's certainly something we'll look into if some of our developers haven't already. I don't know a ton about Bitcoin Cash myself, so I can't provide too much specific details there.
Yeah, I would say that if there's someone out there listening that does know a whole lot about the Bitcoin Cash SLP tokens, I'd be happy to hear them out. Sort of Bitcoin Cash has not been a focus of my efforts, but really we're looking to find the right next landing place for this.
Yeah.
So anything is on the table, but if you really think that this is the answer that we should be pursuing, let us know. And if you guys have some other place you think it should be, let us know. You know, sitting behind me on the wall is my Ethereum diamond, and that's where a lot of my focus lies. So I'm inclined to put it somewhere in the Ethereum world or sidechain of Ethereum. But you know, we've talked about Ravencoin. We've talked in the past about Stellar. You know, we've talked about creating a chain on brightID called ID Chain with a different set of picking validators. So really, anything's on the table. If you feel passionately about any one thing or want to help us figure out the best one, please reach out.
Yeah. So to close up there, I love this suggestion. I think we have always come from an agnostic perspective of, like, when we launched, we thought about launching in Bitcoin and Ripple at the time. We actually had a gateway into Ripple, but the landscape was way too immature, and that's why it was such a great idea. It's been brutally difficult, but to have a separate chain to kind of scurry through all this, because if we did land too early on one, we wouldn't have been able to go through the growth curves as well. And so our focus is being very dynamic to adjust in the flexibility as this landscape evolves. And we are positioned extremely well. I also think the halvening is going to be an interesting time period in all of this. So yeah, well, thank you for the suggestion. And yeah, we'll definitely take a look. I know there's some challenges with Bitcoin Cash that are there, and the different ticker symbols that have some really strong opinions. So we're looking at it all, and we look at it I personally am very agnostic. I don't care what the winner is. I just want the best solution to come out and make the best impact on people's lives. That's all I care about. So as a researcher, how can I get involved in the development of Manna, MannaDollar, HedgeforHumanity? What knowledge areas are important for further development and could be supported by academic research? I think, John, if you could tap in that, and then Phil, you probably have some opinions on that.
Yeah, there's a few things that immediately come to mind. From the nonprofit side, the more research and the more robust, detailed information you have to present is always helpful. So there's absolutely always a need from a nonprofit perspective to have good research, and also from a perspective of making wise economic decisions and smart moves. The more data we have, the better decisions we can make and the better we can present the problem. So there's that whole side of the thing. And then of course, we're working in a landscape that's constantly inventing itself. So researching possible solutions, like we just talked about with the previous question of what blockchain do we land on, that's certainly an area where research can help out. I don't think there's any shortage, honestly, of different ways, and certainly there's probably priorities, but absolutely there's anyone interested in helping out from a research perspective, especially if you have a background in it. We certainly would have many ways in which you could utilize that talent to help the overall project.
I'll mention that this particular question came with a much longer description of who this community member was and the skill set that he has. And we've already reached out saying, yes, we would love to continue to talk to you and figure out how we can bring your awesome skills into
Okay, you guys did reach out to him further?
Yeah, John sent it this morning, I think. So,
okay, great. Awesome.
We are at a point there are so many things we are juggling. If people have skills that they have, please come to us, tell us your skills, but it's also got to be sort of self-directed. We love to ask people, hey, they say, what do you how can I get involved? And it's kind of like, well, what are you good at? What are you interested in? And please find a task that works for you. I wish we were at the point where we could just be ready to assign things to people and have it be streamlined. We're not there yet, but if you're a self-starter with great ideas, please come help us make it better. This is a ratchet; it only goes one way.
And the other side of that is it's a wonderful opportunity for someone who does have that personality type, who really wants to lead an element of this project. Here's a great opportunity that maybe in a more evolved organization, you may not get that opportunity. So it's a great way for someone who's self-disciplined and can kind of run in an area they're talented in to have that freedom to really make an impact. And
I want to clarify that the things that we need really can be anything. So on like the brightID side, we're a pretty nerdy bunch. We don't have any Twitter game, right? Like we need someone that has social media skills to like write better tweets. We don't have any brightID memes yet. We need some memesters to figure out how to, in 4 words in a picture, explain what we're doing and how people should relate to it. We recently, someone just wrote an article and put it up on Hive. That was awesome. We had somebody that said, hey, I want to host an Asian brightID hour, because the weekly brightID hour that we run now as a video conference is, it's 4 o'clock Eastern time on Fridays, which is terrible if you're in Malaysia. So great, host it at another time. We've got a new community member who's helping us look at our anti-Sybil algorithm, because that's his knowledge base. So really, whatever it is that you have, if you can distill it down, great.
Yeah, that's a great point, Phil. When you look at our organization, there's some technically advanced elements to it that really do require a high degree of specific technical skills. But that being said, there's a lot of areas where a lot of very important skill sets are needed that a lot of people have. Like social media across the board, I think a lot of us, our number one favorite thing to do isn't go on Facebook and Twitter. And so that's something for brightID, for HedgeforHumanity, for Manna, we'd love that. Things from the nonprofit side, if you are passionate about maybe doing grant raising or fundraising, things like that are wonderful. You know, there's just so many ways in which you can get involved that are maybe not so technical, if that's something that is intimidating about our project to keep in mind. So thanks.
I haven't seen a single TikTok yet about this. Who out there is going to make the first TikTok?
Yeah. Social media, we get hammered of, you guys aren't active enough on social media. Is like, social media is an animal in itself. I personally really don't spend much time on it because it can be just a time suck / frustration element. And then the metrics that you pull from it are pretty irrelevant to some degree, like on click-throughs to download or to get asks or money or whatnot for donations. And one that really was interesting to me was when, because Yang gang or whatever, they did a pretty good job of like getting some trending whatever hashtags, but even those don't relay into real world, you know. So people like think this digital era is like reality, but it didn't convert into votes, you know. And that's the difference, is like, we will fail at this mission if we think we're going to solve all the problems behind the computer. These are real world problems that we need people to get really engaged in their communities, their families. And if that does not happen, this is not going to succeed. So I tend to put my energy on trying to be the best husband, the best father, the best community member that I possibly can be, and not sit back and just be behind a computer thinking I'm so saving the world, you know. So anyway, that's my point of view. Sorry, little, sorry, that wasn't the great energy level. But yes, memes are great. I love different memes or GIFs or whatever. Those are funny. Okay, John, you want to read this one? You put this one in here. I like this one. This is right up your alley.
Yeah. Well, you know, one of the things that when you get into a project like this, you do get a wide variety of questions and personalities. So this is, I think it's important, and not to discredit the person who wrote this, but we get a lot of frustration too, of like, you know, I emailed you or I set up a help desk ticket. We get a lot of people asking a lot of questions and a lot of angles, and it can be very hard because we are a volunteer staff and we're trying to work very specifically on progressing forward. So for anyone out there who's reached out and been passionate and had ideas they want to present to us and philosophical conversations they want to have, I mean, we'd love to respond to everybody. We'd love to constantly be in dialogue, but it's challenging because that time spent doing that directly takes away from our time where we can work on other things to really move the project along. And especially when this is all volunteer based and really like very tight budget based, we have to prioritize. So this question is, all I have is love. When that love feels hurt or betrayed, will that be the downfall of the monetization of currency? What goes up must come down. Gravity, if I'm not mistaken. Unless we are decentralizing currency with social distancing space, then the gravity of the matter would be zero. Slowly but surely weaken with time and space. But with that said, if space is configured into the equation, then the future is already known. The markets are controlled just as everything is foreseeable, but the eyes in the skies and above prove me wrong. But wait, you knew I would send this. I didn't know you'd send this personally, but I think underlying that there's some elements that I definitely, you know, I think love is needs to be a core value of this project, and I don't know what else to add, but
yeah, I think it's a great, I don't know where that came from, if it was poem or what, but yeah, like I see it as like, when we started off on this, how do you quantify love or hope? You know, like you can't put a price tag to that sort of thing, you know. And that's what we're trying to do, is to give hope to people that there is a bright future. And we're going to keep fighting tooth and nail to make it happen. So thanks for that comment. Really interesting comment, statement, question, whatever it was. Okay, well, let's wrap this up with Manna, and then we'll have some specific brightID questions here. When can I withdraw Manna? So we're still getting the stabilization of the blockchain, and then we'll open that up probably for a few days or a week if people want to withdraw it. Yeah, you can do whatever you want with it. Yeah, if you were with the Kata phase, we just put everything in cold storage and just kind of made it happen as we progress forward. So I have a few brightID questions. So what would be, this was more directed to you, Phil. So what are the next steps for getting uploaded and connected into the social graph for brightID?
Yeah, so we've not built out the full integration with Manna yet, but anyone can get brightID today. The brightID app, so it's a smartphone app. It's available on both the Apple Store and Google Play Store. You can just search for brightID, all one word on either of those, or go to brightid.org, our website, and there's a link right at the top to get to those applications. Once you get in, it'll just take a minute to set it up on your phone. It'll ask you to add a picture and a name. Important to note, those are only shared with your peers. They're not collected and stored by brightID because brightID doesn't want your data. And then you start making connections to people you know. Now, if you don't know anyone that isn't already on brightID, you're not going to be able to get verified. But you are always welcome to come to what is now once a week brightID hour, Fridays at 4 p.m. Eastern time. We will be adding additional time slots in the future. And if a bunch of people come, we will add them faster. So easiest way, so you can reach out through our website. We're also, there's an active Telegram for brightID. You can, also, John and Brennan and I, we're all happy to make connections.
Yeah.
So
absolutely.
Yeah, you got, like, brightID's gotten some really interesting energy shifting into it. Tell us about the influx of energy and the interesting parties.
So brightID was had a long period of time of being fully volunteer. There was no money. We spent a long time trying to come up with a funding model that would work for brightID, both in the very long term, sort of imagining if brightID became this protocol used by all of humanity and was super important, and billions of people relied on it. Okay, we got to make sure that it's robust and has ongoing support. So it's TCP/IP. How do you make sure that's going to always be healthy? And then also, until we get to the point of, hey, everyone knows it's important, how do you bootstrap it to get going? We spent a long time thinking of ideas that didn't work. Like this couldn't be a VC funded thing because it needs to be a public good. So no one gets to own equity, including the people that created it, and certainly not VCs. It's not about profit, but you need to pay the developers. So in December, we launched our funding model that has both a long-term and a short-term aspect to it. If you search for sponsorships and subscriptions on the brightID site, you can learn more, and we'd be happy to talk about it if you come to Telegram. But basically, in the long run, all users will be sponsored onto the network for $1 each. Some entity or person will pay for people to come on. Hedge4Humanity plans to pay for a bunch of people to come on. We expect a lot of commercial applications will also do this action. But this influx of money has allowed us to hire a number of people from our long-term team to work full-time on brightID. And you get way more done when you have 4 full-time developers than 0 full-time developers.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think the awakening of people understanding the problem and what brightID solves has been a big shift of people's interest, and I'm really proud of the brightID team and really blessed to be working so closely, especially with the mission of Hedge4Humanity. So,
and also, hey, while we're on this, I want to show real quick for people that have never seen brightID, that this is what it looks like. So it's on your phone. Here's my profile. I currently have a verified score. I've made 143 connections, and I can easily make a new connection with someone else just by scanning a QR code. If anyone's trying to scan this code right now in this video, it's not going to work because they're time limited. So by the time you get a chance,
show them the stickers too.
So what he's saying there is, so these 3 little icons are 3 different verification methods, and so right now I'm as verified as you can be in brightID. Right now there are only 3. In the future there will be more. Different nodes can run different algorithms to analyze our social graph, and also let me just pop up real quick our social graph.
Yeah, please show that. I don't think I've ever seen it. And yeah, Donadur, a lot of UBI projects are, and that I think was Adam's original goal when I met him, was like, how do we combine all these different forces?
Are you looking at the graph of dots now?
Yes.
All right. So,
yep.
Looks like the coronavirus spread.
So this is the current brightID social graph. Right now there's about 1,500 dots, including these ones out in the periphery, and then there's 450 verified users. So here's me, and all these red ones are people that I'm connected to.
Where am I?
Let's see.
I gotta be in there somewhere. Wait. So what is this is around the central node, right?
Well, there's no central node. Because Adam Stollard and I have been making connections to the most people for the longest, we kind of end up in the center of this. But if one of you goes out there and becomes a champion connector and connects to 1,000 people, you will become the center.
Oh, there I am. I see my goofy picture.
So yeah, there's Brendan, and it's also worth noting. So I mentioned before that the pictures and names are not shared with brightID. This graph I'm looking at right now, the only pictures here are the ones that I personally collect.
Yeah.
So every picture here is from my device. And if you guys loaded up the same graph, none of you would see these pictures unless you connected to people.
That's pretty cool. Yep.
So,
yeah, I was reading up on the game theory of, like, everyone's heard of the 6 or 7 degrees to Kevin Bacon is, again, it gets into these theories of network effects and stuff, is that, like, I've heard of 1.3 connection point to every human. And if you look at our DNA strands and all that, like, we are so interconnected as a species, it's not even funny. So we're all brothers and sisters. We got to work together to push everyone forward. Thanks for sharing that, Phil. Wow, that was a pleasant surprise. Great. I think we should wrap up on that note. Is there anything that want to close out here you guys want to say as I wrap this up here on the recording?
Well, yeah, thanks everyone who took the time to listen to this and has continued to follow our project, whether you're someone who just discovered it or who's been along this crazy ride for a while. Yeah, hopefully we'll have more really interviews or AMAs and discussions like this coming up to keep everyone captivated and up to date.
Yeah, and I'll just throw out, as I said at the beginning, exponential growth. It may look pathetic for a long time compared to linear growth, but once you sort of reach the knee of the curve, the potential for it is so much bigger. So let's hope that we've just been in the boring, unimpressive part of that growth curve all this time, and we're about to
Yeah, the S curve, it's an S curve or a bell curve, depending on the different metric. Yeah. Yeah, I agree. And yeah, I just want to thank everyone for their patience. This has been a very, like Phil said earlier, like stupidly hard deal. Like it's been days where it's like, man, I don't know, this is really hard. And should we keep going? And it's been a team to keep when one of us is down to pick each other. I've had a few moments of that recently where I've resorted to the team to really recoup my energy. And that's just, we're human, you know, and having a solid team working for a similar passion is so important. And yeah, we're trying our best. And like I said, we felt like we've kind of been building the ark and we welcome everyone to join us as we try to weather through this storm and get to the other side with a brighter future to be had. So yeah, we look forward to, we'll be, as people have more time, yeah, I just re-updated my Zoom, so I think we've gotten some feedback that more verbal communication and what we're learning is some of our thoughts and discussions are actually really good content to be sharing with y'all. So we don't want to inundate with inefficient information or just nonsense, but we do want to share more of our knowledge and our thoughts with everybody. So do anticipate seeing more of that. So alrighty, thanks everyone. Be safe, guys, and yes, John, you be safe out where you're at. I'm glad you're connecting actually with David with brightID in Bali. Yeah. How cool is that? That's awesome. All right, see you, fellas.
Bye.
Bye.